Hat, sunglasses, Pepsi, notes, sources, thick skin. Check. You already know. Let's go. Golden Blooded is a college football YouTube channel for entertainment. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get into our next college football video. Don't forget to send gear to represent your team. The address is P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. Hey, Ed. What up, Ed? What's going on? Or as I like to refer to him, Mr. Ed. Ed's one of our biggest trolls over here at Golden Blue, trying to tell me, oh, you're not doing videos on this. Other college football YouTubers are doing videos on this, so you're not doing it. That makes you not a real college football fan. There you go, Ed. Your 15 minutes of fame. My gosh, some people. Anyways, I'm going to give the Get It Gang a break today. What is the Get It Gang? The Get It Gang is the group of people that give video suggestions. Not ultimatums to Golden Blue. They give video suggestions. And we're going to have Get It Gang merchandise in the merchandise store whenever we relaunch our merchandise store. Prices are going to be much lower. So keep your eyes out on that. But today's video, I actually thought, as far as the idea goes, I actually thought about this or thought of this last night during the live show. So yeah, go back and watch the replay of the live show and you will see exactly where this idea came from. I started thinking about conferences going coast to coast. We already have one, the Big Ten. It is coast to coast. That's a fact. They have Maryland and Rutgers representing the East Coast. And of course, we heard last year, USC and UCLA will be joining the Big Ten. They are on the West Coast for sure. So they are a coast to coast. And the options of the remaining conferences going coast to coast are very, very limited. Now, for the Pac-12, they do have some options. Well, they have one option, getting some teams out of the ACC. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they offer enough for the teams out of the ACC to want to travel out west and have games in time slots that don't make sense. So I don't think the Pac-12 would stretch coast to coast. The SEC, I think the SEC wants to stay within their region as far as the only teams outside of their core of the SEC would be teams in the state of Texas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. That's it. I don't think they're going to go any more west than Texas and Oklahoma. That's it. So the two choices are the Big 12 and the ACC. We're in the Big 12 is talking to the 3/4 of the four corner schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, but that doesn't stretch them to the West Coast. That would not make them a coast-to-coast conference. They would need either Oregon, Oregon State, Washington, Washington State, Cal, Stanford. Those are the 6 teams that would stretch either the Big 12 or the ACC to the West Coast. Because I think those are the only 2 remaining conferences that would be willing to, number 1, and capable, number 2, of stretching to a coast-to-coast conference. What about the Big 12? I've talked about this particular scenario at length. I think that it's a bad idea for the Pac-12 to give Oregon and Washington unequal revenue share because really they don't have any options right now. The Big Ten turned them down, and I think the Big Ten will continue to turn them down. Now, I'm not saying that they wouldn't deserve the unequal revenue share. They would deserve it. They are the most valuable brands in the Pac-12, and they are the biggest revenue producers remaining in the Pac-12 since USC and UCLA are headed off to the Big Ten. So yes, they would deserve it. But I'm saying it would be a bad idea to give them what they deserve. Why? Because I don't think you need to try to keep Oregon and Washington. I don't think they have any options right now. Instead, what that could do is the 3/4 of the four corner schools could look at that and be like, no. No, we are not agreeing to that. So if you're going to give them unequal revenue share, and that's the only way they're going to sign the TV deal, we're not going to sign the TV deal, and now we're off to the Big 12. What happens after that? Well, the Pac-12 shrinks down to 6 teams. Whenever that happens, Oregon and Washington look around, they're like, oh man, we don't like this because according to the NCAA bylaws, Pac-12 either has to add teams immediately or disband. And the only teams the Pac-12 would be adding at that point would be the Mountain West. And we know that Oregon and Washington are not interested in playing Mountain West teams, especially in conference. They're below Pac-12 standards. So then what happens is Oregon and Washington leave anyways. So that plan would backfire, in my opinion. If the Pac-12 gave Washington and Oregon unequal revenue share, that plan would backfire. and eventually Washington and Oregon would leave anyways. In fact, that might speed the process up. Alright, so this is post-production Golden Bluted, and while I was editing this video, I found out that the Pac-12 is actually coming close to getting a TV deal, but it is not looking good. The proposed amount that I'm hearing is $25 million per team. Even worse than what I thought. I thought they were going to be able to get at least $30 million a team. If it's only $25 million a team, that's not good at all. And you better believe Oregon and Washington will ask for unequal revenue share on that. $25 million for Oregon and Washington to stay in the Pac-12. That's not enough. This is bad news for the Pac-12. You lose the 3/4 of the Four Corner schools. And on top of that, Oregon and Washington panic, and they leave as well. Even though they do not want to join the Big 12, they might join the Big 12 out of desperation, knowing that the Pac-12 either has to add Mountain West members or disband. But the other option is joining the ACC. I do think that there is a chance that Oregon and Washington could end up joining the ACC. I mean, the academics are there. I think culturally there is a big divide, and of course travel, there's a massive divide. But I think the ACC would be interested in a Washington and an Oregon together as a package, and I think if what I mentioned earlier, Pac-12 does give them unequal revenue share, and that 3/4 of the Four Corner schools are gone, then they might also think about joining the ACC, and the ACC comes a coast to coast. So that decision about the Pac-12 giving Oregon and Washington unequal revenue share, that would bite them in the rear end, in my opinion. I really do believe that. I think eventually Oregon and Washington would either end up in the Big 12 or the ACC because of that. So if I were the Pac-12, I would not give them what they deserve. And they do deserve that unequal revenue share. There's no doubt about it. They are the most valuable brands available right now, or left, ever since USC and UCLA decided they're going to go to the Big 10. But it's just a bad idea, because it would end up making the Pac-12 dissolve sooner rather than later, or have to backfill with Mountain West schools sooner rather than later. What I would do, and I've talked about this as well, what I would do if I were the Pac-12, number one, try to get some Big 12 teams. I don't think it would work, but you have to try. Once that doesn't work, then you go out and get the best brands from the Mountain West. That's when you go out and get your Boise State, your San Diego State, and your Fresno State. There's 13 right there. You don't need an even number of teams, because the rule states if you have 12 members or more, you must have divisions to have a championship game. That rule is out the window. Last year, you operated under no divisions, and it worked out. So going forward, you would be operating without divisions, so 13 teams would be just fine. You don't need an even number of teams to make that work. Scheduling might be a little bit difficult, but I think you would be able to figure that out. That's what I would do right now. Otherwise, we could be looking at either the Big 12 going coast to coast or the ACC going coast to coast. Which one is more likely? Which one is more likely? Where would Oregon and Washington most likely go? Honestly, I think they would most likely go to the ACC. I really do, because the academics make more sense. Oregon and Washington have come out and said flat out, no, we will never join the Big 12. We know that the Pac-12 and the ACC have had some sort of an alliance in the past, so there is at least some connection between Oregon and Washington and the ACC. So the ACC could become a coast-to-coast conference by acquiring Oregon and Washington. And does that change the minds of those teams that's being rumored, those 8 teams that are willing to vote to dissolve the ACC grant of rights and scatter? Because let me be clear, I've talked to many ACC fans, and fans of teams in the ACC, they actually want to be in the ACC. They just don't like the money. So if the ACC were able to go out and get Washington and Oregon, could their TV deal go up? I think so. I think Washington and Oregon are valuable enough brands to where that TV deal would go up, and it wouldn't just be adding more slices to the pie, it would be adding to the pie. So the TV deal would grow, and these teams would get a bigger share from the pot, because the pot itself would be bigger. Maybe Washington and Oregon can be the saviors of the ACC. That's something I really haven't sat down and thought about, but now that I'm talking about it, it's definitely a possibility. Let's say the Pac-12 does do unequal revenue share, and the 3/4 of the Four Corner schools get mad. They go to the Big 12. Oregon and Washington, they're like, no, we're still not going to the Big 12. The ACC's like, we got you. Come over here. Oregon and Washington go to the ACC. The ACC becomes a coast-to-coast conference. Yes, there is a big gap between the core of the ACC and Washington and Oregon, but still it stretches them coast to coast. And the TV deal goes up significantly, and those teams that were going to vote to dissolve the ACC are like, this ain't bad. This ain't bad. Let's see if we can stick this out at least till 2036. I think that's my point with gaining Oregon and Washington for the ACC. to just continue to exist until 2036, and whenever that's up, we'll see what happens. Maybe the ACC would dissolve eventually after 2036, but gaining Oregon and Washington, maybe that satisfies those 8 teams for now as far as the revenue bump, and the ACC continues to exist, and it is a coast-to-coast conference. So y'all let me know in the comment section. Number 1, do you think the Pac-12 will give Washington and Oregon unequal revenue share? Number 2, if they do you think it results in what I think it will result? The 3/4 of the four-cornered schools getting mad and going to the Big 12. And then on top of that, if that happens, I think Washington and Oregon ends up going to either the Big 12 or the ACC. Which one of those conferences has the best chance of going coast to coast? Is it the Big 12 or is it the ACC? That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.